obj underscore HUD. Okay. Deep breath. Deep breath. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to make this. Gonna need to do some. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. This is going to make sense. Don't worry. But maths. Maths is important. And it looked probably terrifying at the minute. You might need to zoom in. But trust me, it all makes sense. I've deliberately left the comments out, so I'm going to explain it line by line. What the first section here is doing, draw underscore set underscore alpha. Alpha means transparency. How transparent do I want something to be? And I'm drawing a nice big black rectangle on the bottom of my screen. So I want that to be partly see-through. And you'll notice that when I actually run my game, this box here, this area that's running across the top and is actually going beneath it, as the player moves, that follows us around. There's a nice little space for our heads-up display. I think it looks quite pretty. I based it off the Doom and Wolfenstein style heads-up display. You could obviously put yours wherever you like on screen. So that job there is to make whatever I draw partly see-through. And the thing to remember is 0.5. It has a range of 0 to 1, 0 being completely invisible, 1 being completely visible. So 50% is 0.5. This line underneath, it just then draws a rectangle. So that draws a rectangle with the properties that you see here, and if you haven't yet gasped in horror, please feel free. But let's talk through it. It's really not as terrifying as you might think. I'm going to follow along just by copying it out underneath, as you will be copying it as well. So as I try and draw a rectangle, you'll notice that it's after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, 5 parameters, 5 arguments, however it is that you want to call that. And it wants to know each of those 5 things. The first thing it wants to know is the x coordinate and the y coordinate. The way that this refers here, and I'm probably going to put a diagram in post-production here, but you've got x1 and y1, which is the top left-hand corner of your box, your rectangle that you want to draw. What these values here mean, view underscore x view, and then 0. Let's actually jump to the view so I can explain this. If I go to my main map, you notice that I'm using view and I'm using view 0. If ever you wanted like mini-maps and stuff, you can totally do mini-maps with different views designed to view different parts of the screen. But we're using view 0. We can find a lot of information about view 0. And the information that we're starting off with here is where is its x-coordinate? So the reason why we're doing the x-coordinate is where is my view on screen? Because we want this rectangle to follow the camera around. Basically saying, where is the leftmost edge of my camera? That's what that is doing. What the next one is doing is find the y-coordinate of my view and then add an arbitrary value of 425. So what this is doing is find the top of my view, find the very, very top, add 425, which is just a value, and you can see my cursor on screen. I just wanted it to be roughly towards the bottom there, and that's the point of that. Then I've got the next parameter, which is x2, and what x2 refers to is how far do I want it to be, how wide do I want it to be. And this is saying again, take my x view, which is where it is on screen, the leftmost edge, and add to it the w view. W view, Dave. Why W view? Well, I'm pleased you asked, imaginary person in my mind. But W view refers to the width of view 0. So that will go from the leftmost edge to however wide it is. This is brilliant code. I could type in that number. I could say, I know that the width of this is going to be 480. I could type in 480. But if my player were to resize the screen or they were to make it full screen, it pays to make it scalable, which is what I've done there. The next parameter, which is y2, is how far do we want it to be, and I've just hard-coded that to 450. So that's how deep it is. What this means is it starts at 425 and then finishes at 450. So we know that this box will be 250 big. What it's also doing is taking the H view, the height of that view, and adding to it. So it's making sure that it moves around with our view just like before. False just means do we want to draw our outline. Okay, and that's just, if I leave that false, false just draws a fill. So it just draws something that's filled in, whereas True just draws the outline for it instead, draws the rectangle shape. Okay, deep breath. Set draw alpha is lovely and easy. That just makes sure that it goes back to drawing solid objects rather than partly transparent objects like we were doing there. Again, just as before, brownie points for spelling mistakes. What I'm now doing is, because I wanted my text to be center aligned, I wanted my text to appear smack bang in the middle of my screen, which is what's going on here. And if I didn't have this line of code that center aligns that text, what that line does that I'm about to describe puts the center of origin there in the center of the text. Otherwise, it puts the point of origin on the left, which means that the text would be pushed too far to the right. Okay? So what I'm now doing here, that just literally sets center. For the very, very astute English people in the room, and by English people I mean English-speaking people, will notice that is an American spelling of center. You will get used to that. You'll get used to center a lot being misspelled. Same for color. You've probably noticed by now. C-O-L-O-R is the American spelling. The next thing is... okay, let me show you what this is doing. What this is doing is actually drawing that piece of text there, HP equals 30, and is just displaying how much HP that you've got, this line here. But again, it's doing some really interesting maths in order for it to work. We used draw text before, and what draw text does is it wants three parameters. It wants to know where I am X, where I am Y, and the string of text we want to do. Now, we've done this before. I want to display the word HP, then I want to display what my player's HP is, and we know that we had to convert that into a string. If this is news to you and you haven't done this before, this is because you didn't follow along perhaps with some of the Space Invaders tutorials. But that's basically it. Trust me, that works. This bit that might look mortifying makes sense once you get your head around it. View underscore X view, just like before, find the leftmost edge of my view, and then add to that how wide it is. Again, we're using W view here. And then we're going to divide that by 2. This bit should make a bit of sense what it's doing. It's how wide is it, and then divide it by 2. That will be half on screen. That makes sense. Half on screen. And then the Y view here is lovely and straightforward. It's just literally add 425, just like we were doing here. Add 425, and that puts you in a position where the text is going to be. So that puts it deeply into the rectangle. 425. Okay. Not as bad as you think, that draw text, and that one is just actually drawing the number of HP that's remaining. Health bars! Oh goody. You will spend most of today fighting with health bars. Trust me on this. If you manage to solve it in 10 minutes, you're doing really, really well. But accept that this takes a bit of getting your head around. Just like before, I'm probably going to add something in post. But the idea is the health bar here needs a lot of parameters. Yeah. So it wants to know all of these things. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things it wants to know, which is why the line of code is so huge. It wants to know, again, where we're going to draw on screen. Just like we've done before, you should recognize that draw X view is the leftmost edge of my view. Draw on the X. View Y view, add 450. Again, that's just make sure that it draws. If that the kind of grayed out rectangle stopped at 450, this one wants to start at 450, which is what we're doing here. And then view underscore X view, add the width, just like we were doing before. So I want it to be on the X as wide as my view is, so it's filling the view. And then view underscore Y view, add 450, and that's going to push us deep. It's going to be on kind of on the same row effectively, but it's 450 add however the H view is. So the horizontal view, again, how deep it is. Go from 450 to the bottom of the screen. That's what that's basically saying. And then, last but by no means least, it wants to know the amount. Amount here refers to the parameter it wants you to display. So what is my HP? Then it wants to know the back color, the background color. So I've done C_black, generates the color black. It wants to know the min color, which is if you're injured, what color should it go? Well, I want it to go red. If you're not injured, what color do I want it to go? I want it to go green. Direction, it goes to 0, 1, 2, 3 for whether you want it to be to the right, facing up, facing left, facing down. And then show the background, yes or no. So I've put true in there. I do want to see the background at all times. Show border, yes, I do want the border to be shown. Looks mortifying, is a bit terrifying, but with practice this makes sense. In all reality, what I find is if you're struggling to understand what these parameters do, go to the printer, get yourself a sheet of paper, get yourself a pencil, and I really mean actually do this, and draw out what you think is going on a sheet of paper, because I had to, and I've been doing this 5 years. But this draws the health bar. There we are. Lovely and understated comment for that. Future Dave here, guys. I've just decided that I wanted to show you how you can do a simpler health bar that doesn't necessarily follow your view around, but instead just draws it in the most elegant way possible. Well, by elegant, I just mean straightforward. So I'm just going to do very quickly a draw health bar to a set series of pixels on screen. And this will also help it make sense why we're using views. So if I just literally say, draw on 0, 0, that's the top left, the point of origin, the top of our screen. What I'm then going to say is have x2. Remember that means how far to the right it's going to be. I'm just going to put an arbitrary value of 250. y2, how deep you want it to be. I'm going to say just 50. The amount, I'm still going to use player HP. Background color, I'm just going to nab all the other parameters here. I just wanted to show you that health bars themselves aren't intrinsically complicated. It's just because of the way that I'm choosing to use views that make it a little bit more inventive and complicated. So there you can see, I've got a health bar. And that health bar, the problem is if I move off screen, it stays there. It's relative to the world rather than relative to the view. And that's why we bothered going around with all of this complexity. Okay, hope that clears that up. If you can get to that stage for me, guys, where you've got your character who is moving up and down, left and right on screen, they should stop playing the animation when you release those keys. They should, when you collide with the tree, give you an option. Shall I touch it? Yes. When you collide with the potion, your HP goes up by 50 and you also get your health back. And then the view should follow you around. If you're at this point, you've done fantastically well, and it's probably taken you about an hour to get this far. There is a flaw, which is currently if I just keep going back to the tree, I keep getting health potions.